International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola says 2 South Africans allegedly lured under false pretenses to fight in the Russia-Ukraine war have died. He was speaking at the King Shaka International Airport, where he met some of the men who returned to South Africa yesterday and their families. Lamola says the 2 men who died were not part of the much-talked-about group of 17 from KwaZulu-Natal. Instead, they were part of a separate group from other alleged recruitment schemes. For further details, we spoke earlier to Minister Ronald Lamola here on the Late Edition. Have a listen. Much for your time. Really do appreciate you coming on. One would imagine it was an incredibly complex exercise, negotiating the safe return of the remaining men who were trapped in Ukraine and who were fighting on behalf of Russia. To the extent that you can share details about what made it possible for their return, and I know that you've engaged with your counterpart, Minister Lavrov, quite pressingly on this. Talk us through some of the logistics as well as the details on their return.
Yeah, good evening to the viewers and to yourself as the presenter. Indeed, this was a difficult process, made also difficult by the circumstances where they were in the front line of a war after they were looted. And as you have understood that they were looted and had contract with a private army group in Russia, which further complicated the difficulties because the government of Russia obviously said they don't have any knowledge of such people. They are not with the defense force of Russia, but we continue to engage with all the stakeholders, relevant stakeholders, through our mission in Moscow and also through the Russian embassy in South Africa, with all the stakeholders in government playing a role, our state security, the defense, and everyone who has got knowledge of military issues. It was a collective whole of government approach that ended up leading us to a breakthrough where we ended up understanding the circumstance and the conditions under which they are in, which led to us escalate matter to the president to engage President Putin, who was very gracious, who cooperated with our president, and led all the teams from both countries to work together to cooperate to bring back the South Africans back to South Africa who were involved in the war. I must mention that as you are aware, as we're engaging, we became aware that it was not only the 17. There were others in the platform, and the negotiations led to all South Africans who were willing to sign their release form to be released from the front line. And it is also during this period that we also then discovered that there was also 2 that is passed on, but the 2 were not part of the 17.
Yeah. Just so I can understand it clearly, you say those who are willing to sign their release forms are the ones who have been brought back. Other than the 2 that have unfortunately passed away on the front lines, are there any South Africans who are still present in either Russia or Ukraine fighting on behalf of either of those militaries? And one would assume the Russian military, who perhaps may have refused to sign their release forms and who have opted to remain there.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult the details are not very clear. And the reason I'm saying those who have agreed to release is because the information that we ended up understanding was that they signed contracts and to be part of this military operation. They have signed. So if you have signed, you therefore have to sign also to be released. You cannot be forced to be released. So you need to sign. So most of them, those that are here, the 17, have signed the release form. And as I've said, we discovered in the process that they are other South Africans. And all those that have agreed to sign the release form, some of them have been released. and also the two the bodies. Obviously, they could not sign, but
Yeah.
they were already dead. So, but they have been released also the bodies. So as I've said, we discovered that they were not just the 17,
Yeah.
and
Do
it
you,
was
Minister?
not just the 19. So
Yeah.
there were others involved, and in this process, those who have agreed to sign, they have been released.
Just to be clear, Minister, what is the total tally that you currently have? And I'm sensitive to the fact that this is an ongoing matter and that the facts might change at different times. But what is the total tally that you had received in your engagements about the total number of South Africans that were recruited into this war? We understand that 17 have now returned, 2 have passed on, and mathematically, the arithmetic would tell us how many remain in Russia at the moment. How many were recruited?
Yeah, as to how many were recruited, as I have said, we do not know the exact number. But the number that we ended up understanding is those that signed the release forms and left to the South African mission in Moscow. So that number is that we ended up going to our mission was about two that were in addition to the 17. But our understanding is that there could be more, and we don't know the exact number because we do not have all their data. But the majority that went to the mission, and those that have come back, they have to come back through the process of the police. So because some of them went there really with innocent mind that it's a training
Yeah,
exercise or of
yeah.
some sort or employment. Others really went there knowingly what they were going to do and what is this process. So some of them are trying to evade the processes of the police and
Yeah.
the questioning and so forth. So that's why it makes it difficult for them to come openly. But we have said all South Africans must come back and they
Yeah.
must account in South Africa.
The 17 that have returned, are they currently in police custody and are they still undergoing questioning and interrogation?
No, to my knowledge, the police have processed them, engaged them, and then released them.
Yeah.
I believe that the police, when they are ready with all their investigations, they will be able to tell South Africans how far they've gone. And also, when they are ready to arrest, they will effect the arrest of anyone who is involved,
Yeah.
from those that were in the conflict zone, and also any recruiter who has recruited them, who lured them into this, because it is clear there was also a lot of money involved that led to this young people being lured into this platform. So there were recruiters that were behind this whole operation. So the law must take its course of anyone who was involved and anyone who has violated the South African laws.
Yeah. Minister, the 2 that have passed away, have their bodies been located and have they been repatriated to South Africa? If not, are plans being made? So I understand this is a war. Details might be sketchy about the circumstances under which they were killed in the front lines. What do you know about them?
Yeah, no, the details are sketchy, but there is communication with regards to this matter and these 2, which obviously leads to us having to also inform their families. So there is a process that will lead to their bodies being repatriated to South Africa, and if there is any other processes that have to be undertaken.
So the bodies have been found?
We have been informed that they can be located,
Okay.
but we have not seen them. But we have been informed that they can be located, and there is a possibility that they can be repatriated back to South Africa.